You are, you are my child. I believe in you. You don't have to run around trying to figure out what to do. Just take my hand. I'll lead you to the promised land. Give you the desires of your heart. If you let me, and I have the keys. Good morning. To the kingdom, yes. Give you the keys to the kingdom, yes. And you are my child. I believe in you. Give you the desires of your heart. If you let me, and yes, I will do everything through you. I give you the desires of your heart. If you let me, and I have the keys. Good morning. To the kingdom, yes. Give you the keys to the kingdom, yes. And you are my child. I believe in you. Give you the desires of your heart. If you let me, give you the desires of your heart. If you let me, give you the desires of your heart. Oh, if you let me, yes. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wealth Channel. Brother Rick, your gracious host, and today we're going to be talking about this idea, and that's the idea of the wealth environment, how to create an environment of wealth. And, people think that, first of all, good morning, Joyce. Good morning, Ken. Good morning, Truth Seeker. And good morning, Bishop Derek. Good morning to all of you. And I hope you're having a beautiful, phenomenal, fantastic day, wherever you may be on God's green earth. Tell the children in Kenya we said hello. Bishop Derek, you keep doing amazing things that you're doing for the children that you work with. You're an amazing human being and an amazing God being, I should say. And we're extremely proud of you. And you keep doing what you're doing. Keep pressing, keep pressing, keep pressing. And you already have a great reward, and it shall be greater as time goes on. So good morning, everybody. We're going to be talking about this morning about this. Good morning, Javon, Kendra. Good morning to you. We're going to be talking this morning about the wealth environment. You know, most people believe that the way that you get wealthy or the way that you be successful, most people believe is because you got to be pumped. You got to be a motivated individual. That has a part to play in it, but really, that's not the real reason. That's not the real reason why some people earn a lot of money and then other people don't, because you have people that's really motivated, but they don't understand systems. You have people that are really motivated, but they're not around the right people. You have people that's really motivated, but they don't understand best practices in business. So all the motivation in the world and all of the pumped up energy in the world, it doesn't mean much if it doesn't have direction. For example, Paul said, I bear them witness that they have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. So you can be extremely excited about doing things and really pumped up and really want to make it rain, really want to do it. But if you don't understand what direction you're going in, or if you don't have the key elements to run a business and the key elements to be successful, then the chances of you being successful is small, because you can't just wing it. You hear what I'm saying? So most people just try to go out and just try to wing it, and they think that their enthusiasm or their willingness to go hard is going to work. But I got to ask you a question. If you're running north and south at the same time, no matter how hard you're running, you're going to end up where? Right back where you started from. If you run 100 paces to the north, even if you're a sprinter and even if you're real fast, and then you run 100 paces south, then you're going to end up where? Right back where you started. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put sense in the chat. Does that make sense, just to get started? Does it make sense that if a person wants to progress, you have to have a real roadmap that takes you to where it is that you're going and where you desire to be? And it's got to be a roadmap that takes you on a clear path and not you running in one direction and running back in another direction. The enthusiasm is not going to get it. All right. And it's good. You should be enthusiastic. And you should be what? You should be a motivated person. And you should be what? A determined person. What I'm saying is that you have a lot of enthusiastic, determined people who never make any money and they don't understand how to run a business, and they don't understand what's required to be in a wealthy environment. Okay. So most people that are wealthy, let's just face it, most people that are wealthy, they grew up in a house with some other wealthy people. And the reason that they're wealthy is because the people in the house had systems in place. So when they came in, they don't have to be real good, because you look at people and you say, man, this cat is a billionaire. He ain't no smarter than I am, but this woman is a billionaire. She ain't no smarter than I am, but this person is a millionaire. They ain't no smarter than me, or this person is. So when you look at people and you see their level of success, it's not necessarily built on the fact that they're such a brilliant person. What happens more often than not is that the person has just been exposed to an environment of wealth. So when you get exposed to an environment, then you start copying the things that the people are doing, and then you have similar success that the people have. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Does that make sense? All right. So everybody remember, if it was three cats on a wall and one jumped off and one jumped off, how many would you have left? You would have none, because they was all copycats. See, people, the reason people get wealthy is because they copying another cat. They got a roadmap to go by, and then they look at the person's roadmap, and then they emulate it, and then they accumulate money. Because if you don't have a roadmap, then you can't accumulate money. All right. So let me give you a few ideas here. And the book that I want you all to get, it's called 24 Assets, and it's written by Daniel Priestley. Daniel Priestley is an amazing author. He has a lot of really good books, and I'm one of his students. I pay close attention to what he says, because he runs multi-million-dollar businesses, been doing so for quite a while. And he started out as a youthful man, and in his first couple of years was able to make $1 million, even in his early 20s. So he's a very wise person, and he can help give you a roadmap on business management, how to accumulate and manage assets, particularly digital assets, which is the world that we're in right now. So people are living in a world of yesterday, and they can't make money today because they don't have the processes in place that makes money today. They're doing things in an era that just doesn't exist anymore. And now we are in an era that you have to adapt to. If you don't adapt to this era, you're not going to make money. All right. So if you want to be successful, you have to be in a successful environment. So let me just read a few things to you. So his book is called 24 Assets, and I highly recommend that you get this book by Daniel Priestley. We'll be talking together in May in Tampa Bay. We'll be speaking together down at the Offering Mastery program, Offer Mastery Live, that my good friend Myron Golden has. Okay, so you'll want to be there too. Those tickets will be sold out real fast too. If you want to come and meet some amazing entrepreneurs from around the world, from clear around the world, and some brilliant minds, and you want to listen in, and you want to get some really good ideas that can help speed up your processes, then I highly recommend that you come. It's called Offer Mastery Live by my good friend Myron Golden. He's the host in Tampa Bay, and several people will be speaking, myself included. And Daniel Priestley will be there. So this gentleman that I'm teaching you about right now, he'll be in America. He's not even from here; he's from the UK somewhere, but he'll be here in America. And he is a genius, a business genius. Okay, so here's some things that he says. He says it's not about vision boards or motivational classes. He said most wealthy people, he said, they aren't even really personally developed. Wow. Now you say, come on, Rick, brother Rick, that sounds contradictory to everything you're saying. You said we should always be developing personally. Of course you should, but you should be developing personally for your life, not just for business and not just to try to get some money. Everybody should want to be better every day. So personal development should just be part of our DNA. But just because you get personally developed doesn't mean that you make more money. All right. This is the point that he's making. I know it's a little different from things you probably heard in the past, but just hang in there for a little while. You'll get an understanding of what I'm talking about. All right. And be like Timothy, like Paul told Timothy, you just consider what I'm saying, and then the Lord give you understanding. All right. So this sounds like a contradictory statement, because you're like, how in the world can you be successful without being, how can you be successful without, good morning, Ricky. How you doing, brother? Thank you so much for that thing about cancer when he was talking, Myron was talking yesterday. And if my brother decides he wants to pursue that, then, I'll do that. So I had a little sister that passed away from cancer, Ricky. So I'm really happy for you that you were able to overcome it. And if you want to put that, on the screen too, Ricky, that what's the name of that water that you were suggesting that we drink? It's called. I had it written down, but if you want to just put it in the chat over here, people can pay attention to you on Instagram, and I mentioned it here on the other channels that we're on too. So if you can just put that in there, it's a young man named Ricky on here who drank some water that helped heal his cancer, and he came up out of cancer. And my little sister died from it. I got a brother that died from it, another sister that died from it, my older sister. So I've got three siblings that passed away from cancer, and and I got a brother that's fighting it now. So that makes me very conscious of what's going on. That's why we do stage plays and give away money to people who are fighting cancer. We just bring them up on the stage, just give them money, to bless them. And I dedicate all my plays to my sister. So, Ricky, if you want to put that in the chat, that'd be good. All right. So this is what Danny Priestley is saying. He says most wealthy people, he says, they aren't really personally developed. He say they almost have. He say they all wealthy people or successful people have insecurities, good days and bad days. And ain't always even crystal clear on what their goals are. And some wealthy folks don't even have goals. So you say, "Come on, Rick." You say, "Nah, you're throwing me off. I'm not getting it. And how can you be wealthy without goals? How can you be wealthy if you got insecurities?" Well, let me tell you something. If you really think that there's a human being or a God being on the face of the earth who's having any level of success and aren't dealing with insecurities, then you're delusional. Why? Because everybody deals with insecurities. Everybody sometimes doesn't have a crystal clear plan on what it is they're going to do. So you're saying, so how in the world can? Okay, thank you so much. It's called Kangen demo.com. KANGEN demo.com. Anybody that's dealing with cancer and they want to drink some water that can help heal them, it's called kangendemo.com. All right. So check that out. And follow Brother Ricky at Ricky_0888. Follow Brother Ricky and get some more information about that. And see if you might be able to save your own life. It might be able to help save somebody else's. I believe in natural cures. And I believe we should always check them out at least and find out what they're about. Don't just sit around and just accept being sick. And your loved ones just don't accept it. Okay. If somebody's down, if somebody's dealing with cancer now, find out. Okay. All right, so if it's okay, so let's go back to what I was saying. So if it's a fact that a lot of wealthy people got insecurities, I mentioned say every single person got insecurities, and a lack of confidence sometimes, and a lack of feeling incompetent sometimes. So what's the difference then? Why is their environment? Why are people so wealthy if they got all these flaws? Because there's no such thing as a person that doesn't have flaws. I believe one of the things that hold people back crossing a bridge is that they think that the flaws that they have, defeat their purpose, or like it disqualifies them. I'm like, well, you've never seen anybody that's flawless make any money, so that can't be the disqualifier. And just because a person got a whole lot of energy, enthusiasm, that don't mean they're necessarily going to make any money. So that's not the qualifier. So then, what is the qualifier if it's not a matter of and having goals? Having goals is not even a qualifier. You say, why is that? Because people have goals, but a goal that doesn't have task attached to it are merely just wishes, just pipe dreams. And so you can write down a lot of goals, and I do write down goals. Mostly I don't write down as many goals as I write down tasks. So the way that I do my days is that I write down on the left side what it is that I intend to do, and then I write down on the right side what I actually did, so I can have a self-accountable day. And you'll start finding out. I'm going to start moving y'all over to the wealth environment. And anybody ready to move, put move in a chat. If you're ready to move over into the wealth environment, where wealth is just part of your lifestyle. If that's what I said, if you're ready to move into the wealth environment, where wealth is just part of your life, where it just becomes normal, then put move in a chat. All right, and I'm going to help you move. Anybody want to pack their bags? I say, anybody ready to pack their bags? You ready to pack your bags from mediocrity and pack your bag, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and lack and not much, and can't really help people. And do you want to pack up and move from that city, from that state? Okay, so if you're ready to move, then I'm ready to help you. Let's all pack our bags. So here's some of the things that we need to put in our suitcase if we're going to move from mediocrity to success. All right. So what's the separator? The separator is the environment. Okay. And what I mean when I say the environment, because your environment, it really dictates your performance. All of us, our environment dictates that. So what do you mean? So when you know what you want, then you need to find an environment that'll help you to be able to get what it is that you want. Okay, are you listening to me? So when you read you say, okay, it's amazing. People, listen to me good. This will really help you, okay? Know where you want to go. All right? You have a right to know where you want to go. All right? I mean, it makes no sense just to get up and move and don't even have an idea about where it is that you want to go. Know where you want to go. And it's so, and you don't owe nobody no explanation for wanting something. Okay? It's a God-given drive, and when you have incentive and ambition, it's absolutely 100% godly. Why? Because God says that I command you to be fruitful and to multiply. So that means that his expectation of us is to be is to be ambitious, and his expectation of us is to not sit around resting on our laurels. In fact, God gets so plain about it until he says, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, and consider his ways." Who ain't got no guide, no leader, but the ant, they do what? They plant their stuff in the summertime, and then in the winter they can chill out. Why? Because they got amazing work ethic. And God is like, I'm 100% behind work ethic and ambition. The Bible say the rest of a laboring man is good whether he eat much or whether he eat little. So God is all about what? Diligence, 100% behind it, and ambition. So you don't have to, the teachings that we get sometimes, especially these religious teachings that we get, they teach you to like be satisfied with life on earth until you can get to heaven. And and don't ruffle the shoulders and make sure you're in the world, but you're not of it. But it's such error because it's a lazy type of teaching. It's a type of teaching that implies that you're not supposed to be ambitious. In fact, it implies that it's almost something wrong with you being ambitious. So if you're going to move over into this wealth environment, you have a right to do so. You have a right to say, you know what, I don't want to be poor. I don't want my kids to be. I don't want to be always behind with bills. I don't want to have high blood pressure. All right. These are things I don't want. But what I do want is I want all my bills to be paid every single month in advance. What I do want is I do want to get up out this backyard and stop looking at the same stuff I've been looking at for 25, 30 years. And I want to go see something else. What I do want is I do want to find out, what is it like to be on a private jet without nobody kicking the back of my seat. What I do want is I want to know what is it really like to start up a car and it really actually starts up when I press the button, and it really actually goes off when I turn it off. I do want to know what it's like to be able to, like Shantae was doing a car the other day, turn the volume up with her finger without even just doing this stuff. I'm like, well, it's tripped out, these electronic cars. So I do want to know what it's like to be able to tell the kids that's hungry around me, well, here's enough of y'all to eat for the rest of the year. I do want to know what that's like. So in order for me to do that, I'm gonna have to move from where I am and move over into a different environment. So that means that my ambition is good because, I want to help people. I want to take care of my family first, and then I want to take care of people. And if that's your ambition, then that's 100% lines up with God's ambition for you. And that means that let's go. All right. So let's move. All right. Move. Get out of my way. All right. So if just being charged up doesn't do it, then what is it about the environment that creates success? What is it about the environment for people who might not even have a whole lot of personal skills? I know this is different from what you've heard before, but just hear Brother Daniel Priestley out. He says, so what's the separator? He said, when you know what you want, he said, find an environment where it would be normal to achieve it. All right. So that means that everybody write this down, and you can put it in the chat if you like to. You're going to have to develop a new norm. Okay. If what you've been doing has been getting you results that if I keep doing this, there's no chance of generational wealth, none. But everything I'm doing is normal to me, then that means you're gonna have to create what? A new norm. All right. So if I was you, I would put it in the chat because when you write down things and you can remember them a lot better. And I would put new norm in the chat, unless you're just cool with what you're doing. If you're cool with what you're doing, it doesn't matter to you what I'm saying. But if you're not satisfied with where you are currently, and then you want to be in an environment where being wealthy and being successful is just everyday living, and put new norm in the chat because I'm always looking for a new norm. Me personally, I'm always looking for a new norm. I don't think there's no such thing as arriving. So what was normal yesterday, I don't want to keep doing that. I want to do what's normal, what's coming up. I want to anticipate what's happening, and I want to be involved in what's happening. How about you? Do you want to anticipate what's happening and be involved in it? Then that means that you want to have a new norm. Okay, so he said, so create an environment where it's just normal to, basically what he's saying, to be a baller and a shot caller. It's just normal to have plenty of money. It's just normal to have real good health. It's just normal to have a whole lot of impact. It's just normal to have real good influence. It's just normal to be create an environment where it's just normal for when you go on a vacation, you can take 6 weeks and don't even have to take your cell phone. Who would like to live like that? Put a one in the chat if that's you. Would you like to be able to leave and go someplace 6 weeks? That's what I'm looking to. That's the new norm I'm trying to move over to, because I haven't been able to do that. So my norm that I'm in right now, I'm not happy with that. Why? Because I got a whole lot of checks and balances and stuff in my company that really need to get put in place. So I don't have time for that now because we got a whole lot of stuff that need to be straightened out with my business. So I don't know what's going on with you. Do you at least want to be in a position where that can be true about you? Would you like to be in a place where you can go for 6 weeks and don't even bring your phone? Because why? Because the system's good until you don't even have to think about it. It's not even on your mind. Can you imagine how much work you can get done in 6 weeks if you wasn't talking to nobody? Man, how many books you can write, all the things that can get done. Well, let's make that what the new norm. Let's look towards that. See, that'll give you a whole lot of that'll make you decide that, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. I've got to put some systems in place because I'm charged up, I'm motivated, and all of that. But I'm only one person, and I don't know what I'm doing. Why? Because you didn't grow up in an environment where people knew what they were doing, where they knew what they were doing. So that means you got to step out of the environment that you've been used to and come into the environment that really produces wealth. Because the environments that we grew up in, if you grew up like I did, nobody knew anything about wealth. So when it came down to executing something, it's impossible for me to know to execute what I don't know. And the same thing with it. It's impossible for you to execute what you don't know. So that means that you're going to have to volunteer to be in a new environment. All right. An environment that produces wealth. All right. So here's some factors about normal in a wealthy environment. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for some factors? Are y'all ready for some access? So let me show y'all how. Let me give y'all access to the factors. If you're ready for the access, just put access in the chat. And come on, I'll go ahead on and show you. All right. Are you ready? Okay. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Put access in the chat. Do you want to get access to abundance? Do you want to get access to the systems that take place? Well, I'm going to show you how. All right. But you got to put access in the chat first. Make sure you're paying attention. All right. Y'all ready? Y'all moving too slow. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Let's go. Let's go. Put access in the chat. Are y'all ready? All right. Truth seeker. Let's see you ready. All right. Ken, you ready? Okay. All right. Y'all moving kind of slow. We need to cooperate a lot faster. All right. Groove in. All right. You ready? Okay. All right. Jackie, you ready? Okay. Joyce, you ready? Okay. All right. So here's some ideas. There are 4 factors. All right. The first factor is you want access to current best practices. All right. So write that down. All of this is in his book, 24 Assets. So get the book, Daniel Priestley. He's a genius. You'll agree with it if you read this book. So you want access to current best practices. What does that mean? That means that people can, the wealth environment is an environment of people who come in and then they get access to how to do something instead of messing up a whole lot and eventually fizzling out and not even being able to stay in business. So this is the difference. This is what moves the needle. What moves the needle in business is that you know what to do, and you can know what to do if you come in and somebody gives you access to the best practices. For example, he shows an example in his book about how the sailors in the 1800s, how the sailors was all dying from a disease called scurvy. What's it called? Scurvy? Yeah, I believe that's what it's called. And scurvy. Yeah, it's called scurvy. And it was a bad disease. They breaking out with rashes and stuff. And it was a pitiful disease. It was a painful disease. And people, they was dropping dead like flies. The sailors were, and they were trying everything they could. They were drinking, they trying to drink more water and trying to exercise their way out and trying to stay off of alcohol and they was doing all of this hard stuff. And they was diligent about the hard stuff they were doing. But the problem was that none of that stuff worked. Why? Because they found out that all they needed to do was eat oranges. Can you imagine that? They went through scurvy. It's called scurvy. It's a dreadful disease. And these men were dying by the hundreds. Are you hearing me? And had no answers. Why? Because they didn't know the best practice. They didn't know what it was. That you're right. That's vitamin C deficiency. Ken, you're right. So scurvy. That's what it creates. But all they had to do was eat oranges, and they started eating oranges, and they went from dropping dead like flies to living full lives. From dropping dead like flies to living full lives. That's the difference between access to best practices. If you don't have access to best practices, you can be trying real hard and you can be really motivated and you can be a real go-getter, but what you're doing doesn't work. And if what you're doing doesn't work, there is no access to wealth. You have to be in a wealthy environment where when you come in, people are willing to do what? Teach you the best practice for this particular business that you're involved in. And then now you can run like the wind with that particular practice. But if you're running hard and you don't know what you're doing, then you're running hard and you still just don't know what you're doing, because wealth is not accumulated by a lot of reckless hard work with a lot of directionalist hard work. That's not the wealth environment. All right. The wealth environment is because somebody tells you when you come in, these are the practices that work. And here is the data that proves that these practices work. So you don't have to be guessing about what you need to do. You just need to do these practices. And then you do it. And then you get in, you make it rain like a hurricane in these practices. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Are you think, does that make a whole lot more sense? Yes, I say, does that make a whole lot more sense? All right, put a lot in the chat if you agree with that. That it makes a whole lot more sense for somebody to give you the practice to actually follow so that you won't be eating, drinking wine and exercising and doing push-ups to get rid of a disease that all you had to do is eat an orange. All right. So I say put a lot if that makes some sense to you, because I don't want you all to be wasting your time and doing things that don't work. I want you to wait. I want you to run your businesses, and more importantly, the way God wants us to run our businesses is that He wants us to know what direction to take, and you can know that if you're in the right environment. If you get in and you talk to somebody who is already doing what it is that you're doing, already knows the best practices for that, and then you get that from them. Sometimes you might have to pay them. Sometimes somebody might be a blessing for somebody just to tell you, and most of the time you're gonna have to pay for it. All right. So don't be running businesses trying to wing it. Okay. I'm talking about, I'm so charged up though. I'm so excited though. So I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I done messed up 335,000 times, but I'm determined to hang in there. Well, that's just not realistic. What really happens is that people get burned out from practicing the worst practices instead of the best practices, and they get burned out. So they come in with a lot of energy and all of that, and then they go back to working jobs. Why? Because they can't sustain themselves and the businesses don't last, because they don't create a wealth environment, because they won't just let somebody tell them, this is the best practice right here. We've already done this. So what you do is you come on in and you adapt this best practice. And if it costs you money, if you got to pay some money for it, then that's no big deal. But just think about it like this. Let's just say that you was running a company and that somebody has some best practices for you and it costs you $50,000 to purchase. Well, you say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to figure that out on my own. So, okay, so you go off on your own. So you spend a whole year and you make, let's say, $50,000 in sales and everything using your own practices. So, but if you had used the best practices that they gave you, you could have made, let's say, $500,000. All right. So say that the best practices would have paid you, 10 times back what you paid for it. So people who try to run businesses and try to come into the wealth family, try to move over to the wealthy side. And video just stopped on Instagram just for no reason. All right, let me straighten it back up. All right, it is what it is. Okay, so uh, welcome back, you all. I don't know what happened over there. All right, uh, so So in one instance, you paid the for the right to understand what's going on so that you can go ahead and move forward in the right direction with a lot of steam. On the other hand, you said, well, I don't want to do that because I believe there's a way that I can work around that and I can do this on my own. But that's a big mistake that people make because they're not really ready to move into the wealth environment. They're like, I'm trying to move into the wealth environment, but I'm trying to take my like cheap ways over into the wealth environment. Sometimes people will give you their best practices. God will just bless you, and people, you just have favor with people. But that's not the attitude to take. The attitude to take is that whatever the best practice is, that's what I want to get my hands on. I put all my energy, money, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into the best practice before I put all my energy, blood, sweat, and tears into a frivolous practice that's not going to make sense and that's not going to give me the result that I'm after, because I'm in this business for the sake of becoming wealthy. I'm not in this business. I got plenty of reasons I want to help people. I'm sure you do and all that, but I'm saying business is for profits. You don't go into business with the idea that I don't want to profit. Nobody in their right mind, right? We go into business because we want to profit. So we need to know the best practices to make us profit. Okay. So that's one example. All right. So in business, for example, you can know how much you need to spend on marketing in business. Talking today about the wealth environment and how you can transfer, how you can move over into the wealth environment from the lack environment. So in business, you can know how much to spend on marketing. You say, how do you know that? Because marketing teams, they already know. They already know the numbers. So it makes sense in business to have somebody to come in who already knows the numbers. They already know if you spend this amount of money, then you can expect this sort of response to the amount of money that you spent, and you can expect this many people to be exposed to what it is that you're doing. So This is measurable. So this is how wealth is created. Wealth is not luck. All right. It's not happenstance. It's very practical. All right. And so you have somebody in marketing and they tell you how much you need to spend. Or you can guess by saying, okay, you know what? I'm not a marketer and nobody in my business is a marketer. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to guess, how much we ought to be spending to be able to draw the customers that are looking for us. And you'll be by trial and error, you'll be doing that stuff. Sometimes you'll spend your whole marketing budget frivolously because you didn't want to hire marketers who do it for a living. Are you hear what I'm saying? I'm talking to you today about the wealth environment and that money is not created by happenstance or luck. It's created on purpose and it's created deliberately. And the people that have it, for the most part, are people who came up in an environment where they adopted the best practices of the people who was already doing it. So if you're like me, and you come from nothing, and you don't have a whole lot of nobody to like show you that, then it makes sense to say, you know what, I'm gonna have enough common sense to say I don't understand marketing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hire some marketers and allow them to tell me based on their experience what how much money should I be paying for some ads. All right, and then I'm gonna do what, I'm gonna let them run that and just pay them their price because I want to pay them their price so I don't have to pay the cheap price of not having no customers. Are you hearing what I'm saying? This is the wealth environment. The wealth environment is not lucky. The wealth environment is pre-planned and is predictable. Because you can predict marketing. You can say, if I do so much of this, then this is what I should expect on the back end. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And then you can do well. And if you're going to be doing some marketing, if you're going to be purchasing commercials, and if you want to be make sure that people are buying whatever it is that you have, then you need to get with it sooner than later. Why? I was in a marketing class when I was in school getting my degree in business. And they gave us $100,000 as a team, and we did this experiment. And they said, okay, make as much money off your 100,000 as you can. So about 2 weeks went by, and we had doubled our money. We had like $200,000, and we was happy. We was popping our collar. But we looked up, and it was a group, and they was losing money. They had less money than they had when they started. So we laughing at them. We like, "God, they don't know how to manage money." So about 7 weeks went by, and they stuff went up. I don't know, to about $700,000. And we used to laugh at them, and we still had barely moved the needle. We was wasting a whole lot of time. We thought we were doing good. We still had close to the same amount of money, about a couple of $100,000. So we looked up and we saw that their marketing budget for that quarter, for that particular week, was $25,000. So we said, oh man, let's up our marketing budget. So we upped our marketing budget to $25,000 and did just like they did. Well, the next week, they stuff went up like to $1 million, and we made a little nominal gain, more than we normally did. By the time the exercise was over with, they had blew us clear out the water. So I went to the teacher and I was like, what's going on around here? I'm like, how did they smoke us like that? That's so embarrassing. I thought we understood how to manage money and how to run a business. And I said, I noticed that that their marketing money was more than ours, but we caught up with them. We started paying what they was paying. And the teacher said, what you don't understand is why they made so much money, and why you all had such a paltry sum of money at the end is because they started marketing from the beginning, and they were putting their ads out. So people were seeing their ads on a regular basis. And then when they started seeing your ads, they didn't have the same trust with you as they had with them because they had been putting their ads out for quite a while. So people believe what their ad said, and they didn't necessarily believe what your ad said because they hadn't seen it enough. So if you have a business and you're going to be doing some advertising, then you need to do it like yesterday. Why? Because when 6 months go by, 6 months are going to go by anyway. And if nobody knows who you are 6 months from now, then nobody's going to be buying anything from you 6 months from now. So you're like, I want everybody to start buying everything today. But that's not the wealth environment. The wealth environment is that you create something today, people will start buying it 6 months down the road. People will start really buying it. And the beautiful thing about the wealth environment is that it has a snowball effect. Like a snowball rolling down the side of a snow covered hill. It's growing like the size of the fish that the man claimed broke his rib. Ooh, it's growing like the heat of the night in the midst of the summer sun. It's growing like the tale that's been told by the man to more than one. Ooh, it's growing. See, money grows in marketing because every day it grows a little bit more and more than it was the day before. So that's the way marketing is. So if you're going to be in a wealth environment, then you're going to have to understand that you need to start marketing yesterday. Why? Because 6 months from now, people will know who you are who didn't know who you were. And then you have that growing effect, that snowball effect that's like rolling down a snow covered hill, and you'll create an avalanche for yourself. An avalanche of what? Wealth and money, and an avalanche of being able to move up to the next level because you're doing this on purpose. That's what the wealth environment is. It creates perpetual money. You don't, you work in the beginning, you make a little bit, then gradually you make more. And then all of a sudden you're making more every day than you ever made in your life because it's rolling now like a snowball down like a snowball effect. So it's called the snowball effect. All right. So is anybody ready for a snowball in your life? I said, no, I'm not talking about at the little store, the little kids that sell that stuff. I'm talking about anybody ready for a snowball. If you're ready for a snowball, put SB in the chat. Are you ready for a snowball? Put SB in the chat if you're ready for a snowball. All right. So marketing has a snowball effect, and it's one of the factors that's important in the wealth environment. Marketing is very important, but it's important that you get somebody who already knows how to do it. You put them in place to do what it is that you do. That's one of the new things that we're doing this year for people that join our financial IQ challenge. One of the things that we're doing new this year is we're creating marketing for you as an individual so that we can help you be able to put your ideas out to the whole world. We show you how to do the videos, show you how to do this, run your commercials for you. Know, we have an arm of our business that's doing that now. So you may be interested in that. Okay. So that's one thing. So marketing is one thing, and you don't have to be guessing about it. All right. And you don't have to be guessing about what to say and so it's another thing that you want to learn in this wealth environment. You want to have access to people who teach you um, customer service too in this wealth environment. This is something that you don't have to guess about. So what you do is you solicit. See, I don't believe in soliciting customers. Soliciting customers, that's not the way to do business. Soliciting customers means you trying all these sales techniques to get somebody to buy something. But that's not how the wealth principle works or the wealth environment is. The wealth environment is that you just help people so much until every other people desire to have the same help who have similar problems. Can I run that by you one more time? So selling is not so much you trying to convince somebody to do something or soliciting somebody to do something. Selling is really just creating an environment where people say, you know what, I need the same help that you just gave Johnny or Robert or Sally or Sue or whoever it is that you just got through helping. I need that same help. I got the same problem they got. So, and I can see that you can solve that problem. So I want to come to you to get my problem solved. And whatever the price I pay for it is incidental because the price I pay for it is way less than if I keep this problem. So if I keep this problem, it's going to cost me $1 million this year. But if I come to you and say, and I pay you $50,000 to solve $1 million problem, now I got my $1 million that I would have lost if you hadn't solved my problem. And that's the way the wealth environment is. It's like I'm gonna come. That's the way selling is. Selling is that you just create more money for the person than what they would have had if they hadn't used your solution to whatever their problem is. And so they know that I'm gonna lose this money. Listen, when you can't get a problem solved, you're gonna lose money. Okay, so it's better to pay money than to lose money. So it's better to get a problem solved than not to get it solved because it's going to catch up with you. All right, so just pay to get the problem solved, whatever it takes. It might take you some money, or it might take some of your energy, it might take both. But always be willing to pay the price. That's where the wealth is. When I say move, I mean I'm like move over from a state of hoping and wishing things are going to happen and just being excited about things because that does not move the needle. A wealth environment is where you have where you have systems set up, and the systems they make the money for you. And if you have to pay for the systems, then you just pay some money out your pocket. But if you don't pay for the systems, then you're gonna pay the money with the money you're gonna pay with the cost of the money you would have lost if you hadn't done it. So you have to understand in the wealth equation, you have to understand the difference between the price of something and what something costs. It always costs you whatever you didn't pay if you still got the same problem, right? And it doesn't make any sense having the same problem today that you had yesterday and not addressing it. Okay. Move over into the wealth environment. It's an environment of abundance, which requires a lot of adjusting, which requires the humility of admitting that you understand how to solve my problem that I don't. So I'm going to employ you to solve that problem so that we can move on and have some bigger fish to fry. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put a one in the chat. Does it make sense to say, you know what, I'm not gonna walk around here with unsolved problems. All right. Whatever it takes to solve these problems, that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm a delegate it to the people who know how to solve the problem. That's why people are wealthy, not because they motivated, not because they all charged up, not because they do push-ups, not because they're excited, not because they got a great positive attitude. That's not why people are wealthy. People are wealthy because because they got the problems get solved. All right. And they put people in place to help solve those problems. All right. Does that make sense? All right. All right. So let's go on to the next. So if you don't know, for example, if you don't have a system that says, okay, so when you have a problem with a customer, when you have like a customer service problem, so what's the operating procedures for that? Because you're going to have customer service problems. So you say, so how do we solve them? Well, if you already got some best practices in place, that's somebody who already has a business, who's already had problems that they had to solve, then they can tell you what to do. And then instead of you hitting and missing and trying to figure out how to solve a problem, then you can solve the problem based on what? The way that another person solved their problems. And now you can anticipate what's going to happen and you can take care of that. So one book that I want to recommend to you all for how to treat customers is called Unreasonable Hospitality. And it's by William Godero, right? Unreasonable Hospitality is the name of the book. It's by William Godero. And William Godero is he created the #1 restaurant in the world. Okay, they rank restaurants to see who has the best customer service, and he created the #1 restaurant in the world. His name is William Godero. I believe he was only like 29 when that ceremony took place, but he believed in giving people what you call bespoke hospitality. Bespoke, the word means tailor-made. So he believes in giving people tailor-made hospitality, and his book is phenomenal. So you can learn from that book some best practices for customer service. So you don't have to guess because this money is not, you don't make money guessing. You don't make money making a whole lot of mistakes. Are you hear what I'm saying? Why? Because you don't stay in business. Because it 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 drains all of your energy because you're like, man, this stuff just ain't working. Well, it's not that you're not a hard worker per se. It's not that you don't have good intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. All right. And the road to the grave is paved with good intentions too. So good intentions is not how you get money. That's not how you move over into the abundance. The way that you move over into abundance is very intentional. And meaning that, you know what? Delegate everything I don't understand. And I'm going to let people tell me who make a lot of money. I'm going to let them tell me what to do. I'm not going to act like I know what I don't know. So I'm going to allow them to help me get rich. I'm going to come on over into this environment because they have some best practices. So I'm going to take their best practices and make their best practices mine. See, you got to be humble to make money and you got to be realistic. You got to be like, you know what? I do not know. And I don't come from money. All right. So I'm not going to act like I do, but you do come from money. Your stuff works. Mine doesn't. All right. You on 63rd. I'm on 43rd. All right. I want to move over to 63rd Street and practice what you're practicing so I can get to that money you make. Why? Because I'm tired of being broke and poor and can't put cheese on a waffle. So that's the attitude of a person who's ready to move. Are you ready to move again? I say, we got anybody else that's ready to move? Put move two in the chat. We done moved one time. Let's move it. Let's move again. All right. Because we got some more to learn. So put move two in the chat. All right. Be ready. Some of y'all just showing up. Earlier, we all decided we wanted to move out of poverty over into abundance. So a bunch of us already said, yeah. So if you're ready for the second move, put move number 2. And let me give you the rest of this lesson. Okay. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Move number 2. Okay. So we all agree that that access is important. All right. And that systems do the heavy lift. Now, the next I told you is 4 factions. Here's the next one. Your peer group. This got a whole lot to do with wealth accumulation, your peer group and success. So what does that mean? That means that you want to go around a group of people that have a normalized high standard of the way that they do things. In other words, see, because most people that make a lot of money are procrastinators, just like, the average person. Most people are procrastinators. It's just a natural trait that we have. Most of us just don't want to face the things that we just don't want to do. All right. It's not pleasant. So we don't want to do it. Okay. We know we ought to do it. But what I'm telling you is that it ain't no difference between nobody. Wealthy folk are not wealthy because they got this inherent want to go do something thing that they don't want to do. That is not true. Okay, so if you're thinking that, if you're like, man, I'd be a baller, I could just get, if I could just wake up in the morning, and procrastination is not a temptation anymore. Well, that's never going to happen. All right, procrastination is going to always be a temptation. You remember when they threw David Ruffin out of temptation? David Ruffin was like, hey, man, I thought you said I was going to be a temptation forever. All right. Well, if he was procrastination, he would have been a temptation forever. But because he wouldn't bring his butt to practice, they threw him out, right? Y'all ever saw that Temptation movie? You know what I'm talking about, right? So, but procrastination is a temptation forever to everybody. It never stops tempting people. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So, what's the difference between the wealthy environment then and how do you get access and how do we move over into this wealthy environment and get away from this procrastination? Well, it's because we get around people, a peer group of people who what? Who understand that the norm is to get things done. So what happens is because you're around a peer group of people whose norm is to get things done, then you feel left out if you don't get something done. All right. Just like if your peer group right now is a lot of people who what a norm is to keep putting stuff off, then it's normal to you. So you feel what? Comfortable in the middle of a group of people who think it's normal to just keep putting stuff off that we know that they know they need to be addressing. So what happens? You fall right into the what? Fall into the gap. Fall right into the gap, right? And end up having the same kind of money they have. So all you got to do is just look around and say, look at the five people that you hang out around the most. You say, well, what do they actually do things, or do they keep putting things off? You say, well, I want my stomach to go down. Okay, so do your friends do sit-ups? You're like, nope, I ain't got one friend that's done a sit-up in the last 10 years. Well, chances are, you ain't gonna do one either. You say, no, I'll take that back, Brother Rick. We all did some sit-ups last night. We sat up and ate as much food as we could. I'm like, that's a bad joke. That's bad. That's not funny. All right. I ain't talking about those kind of sit-ups. I'm talking about lunches. You've been around somebody who, why? Because you observe people and then you absorb people. And you really don't have no choice because that's the way you created. You created to observe people and to absorb people. And you're going to absorb what you observe. So if you're going to put yourself in a place to be wealthy and put yourself in a place to be successful, then you're going to have to observe success. And then you absorb the success. Why? Because spirits are transferable. When you're around a person, the same spirit they got on them, it transfers over to you. And when you're around a person, the same spirit you got on you, it transfers over to them because we are spiritual beings. And we all what? We all full of spirits. And the spirit that's inside of us has no choice but to come out of us. So if you observe a spirit, then you're going to absorb that spirit. And that spirit is going to be part of who you are and your makeup and your mental psyche. So if we're going to be successful, that means that we have to make the new norm being around people who do what? Who actually get something done. So so if you're going to be in a peer group of people, then, for example, if you was running a marathon, and Daniel Priestley talks about this in his book, he says people think a marathon is an individual race, but a marathon is not an individual race. Why? Because people typically they work out together to get ready for the marathon. People typically got at least one partner they're stretching with, one partner they get their mental psyche with. And then when you get in a marathon, even if you worked out all by yourself, the reason that you stay in a marathon is because you're running with so many people. You see this person next to you running, you see that person next to you running, you see somebody in front of you running, and you can hear the footsteps of somebody behind you running, and you're in an environment where everybody is doing what? Everybody's running. So what? It makes it easy for you to run, even though your body don't feel like it, even though your knees might be hurting a little bit, even though you have to stretch over here to get it done. It becomes just normal. So the way that you make money is that you get around people who the peer group of people are all making money. So it's just normal. And if you're not making no money, then it's abnormal. So if you get around like Daniel in this book, he talked about how growing up, he met all these people, from a child up. He said he met so many people who had private jets, and he met so many people who had, the best of the best of everything and flew first class everywhere and all of that. And he said he noticed that none of them was particularly like brilliant necessarily, and none of them was like particularly any different from anybody else. He said the major difference was that they was in an environment where all of them was doing the same thing. He said so it was just normal to them. So it was abnormal when somebody wouldn't show up for something. It was abnormal when somebody wouldn't be on time. if you're around people, everybody's on time. Okay. And you say, Brother Rick, I just got a real problem with showing up at places on time. I'm like, well, obviously, the peer group that you hang out with must be people that's normal for. Okay. But if you get around people who normally are on time for everything, then you'll be too embarrassed to keep showing up because by the time you get there, people have already done something that's already made $1 million. And you're like, oh man, I missed out on another $1 million. It's just like the Temptations movie again. You remember when David Ruffin, when he was in the movie at least, Leon was playing David Ruffin, and he was trying to get high at this dude's house. And the dude was like, man, he said, you ain't got no more stuff, man. Give me some more stuff. And the guy was like, I ain't got no more, man. Stop tripping, all right? He's like, I ain't got that much around here. He's like, man, he said, man, here go 2 tickets to see the Temptations tonight. I'm David Ruffin, bro. And my man was like, oh, yeah. He said, how am I supposed to know that? He said, I got 2 tickets to our concert tonight. So my man looked at the tickets. He said, man, these tickets was like yesterday, last night, man. David Ruffin was like, what? I missed another concert. Leon was playing that part too. I was like, this dude is hilarious. He said, I missed another show, and they're gonna mess around and put me out. So what's my point? My point is that when people will allow you to be late, and that's just the norm, then it becomes part of your life. But if people won't allow you to be late because everybody else is always on time, this is how you change being late. You say, no, Brother Ricky, I'm gonna meditate on it. I'm gonna read a bunch of good books about it. I'm gonna get on my knees and pray about it. All that's good. But you know what's going to really change your life? Get around people who ain't never late. And then you'll stop being late because it's too embarrassing. And because you're missing out on too much money. Because you're like, man, all these people come to the meeting, they're on time. And then I come in and I just saw that Johnny just cut a deal with Jack, and they just cut $1 million deal. Right while I was just sitting over here, I'm not even I don't even know what's going on. They just cut $1 million deal right here. And I'm at the crib brushing my teeth. I didn't prepare well last get over there on time. And now I'm suffering because I know this is something that I didn't get there on time when I could have been there on time. Only reason I ain't there on time is because I'm just used to being late because I've been around people that's been late all my life, and it's just normal. But it's time to move, all right? All right, we're gonna move one more time. Y'all ready to move one more time? Come on, put move 3. We didn't move twice. We moved once, we moved twice. Now let's move the third time. All right. This peer group thing is very important. So here's your exercise that you need to do. Look at the top 5 people that hang out around you. Okay, the top 5 people that hang around you, and then evaluate what it is that they do that that is improving your life, or evaluate what it is that they're doing that means that justifies your procrastination. All right, this is what you need to do. This is an exercise that you need to do. Write down the top 5 people that you hang out around the most. Okay, and then if it comes out that you know what you're saying, I will never be able to make this third move. I'll never be able to move over here to this wealth if I keep hanging out with these people. All right, if that's the case, then be honest with yourself and say, the reason I'm a chronic procrastinator is because these people that I'm hanging out around. One reason is because they are too. One reason why I ain't lost no weight in 10 years is because everybody around me don't go work out. They'll never go to the gym. One reason why it's hard for me to wrap my mind around these books and to read what I need to read is because none of my friends are readers. Nobody wants to. You're gonna have to learn the environment that you want to be in. If it's not the environment that you're in currently, then you need to create a new norm for your life. But your new norm is going to have to be what's already normal to your peer group. Now you hear what I'm saying? Because you can change your life, and you can change it relatively quickly too. And you can start becoming way more successful if you just change your peer group. If your current peer group are chronic procrastinators and folks who ain't taking good care of their health, and people who ain't, I mean, if you want to be in a peer group, if you're having some anger issues and you're around people who get angry real fast, then you're gonna have to get away from that peer group. Why? Because it's like you want to be a calm person, right? So that means that you need to be around a group of people who are calm. If you're saying, man, my intellectual capacity just ain't where it is, then okay, well, you can increase that. Why? Get around a peer group of people who do what? Who can run the numbers in their head, while in they sleep, and then get around them, and then what? It'll rub off on you. Everything rubs off. Okay. And if you're not having the wealth you're supposed to be having, it's because you're in a peer group of people who don't have no wealth and they got bad habits. And what? You have the same habits. So money is habitual. It's based on what you do on a regular daily basis and the habits that you have. And if you want to move over to the success side, that means that you're going to have successful habits. People who have them, man, they really make you want to get down too, just like they get down. All right. You remember the movie Malcolm X? You remember how Denzel Washington, when he played Malcolm X, how they was beating his brother up in jail. The police was just dogging his brother and whooping his brother for no reason other than just because they could. Thought they get away with it. So Malcolm X was standing out and he had this big group of people. And he said, "All right, man." And he pointed this way. Let's all march down to the courthouse because we're going to go down here and put pressure on these people to let this brother go before they kill him. And they ain't going to have no choice but to kill him. But they going to look out here and see all of us and they going to know we ain't playing, to let that brother go. All right. So when they got ready when he pointed his finger and they started marching down the street in the movie, it's a young man who just, wow, he is just totally mesmerized by the idea that this man and these people are cooperating with each other like this. So he just jumps into the line. He ain't no Muslim. He don't know what's going on. Nothing. He just jumps into the line because he's like, man, look at that unity. I just want to be a part of that. He starts marching just like everybody else is marching. Why? Because he was so impressed with the peer group. So if you start marching right, then people around you, they'll just jump in and want to march right too. So just find a peer group of people who are already marching right and then jump into that line and you'll start lining up too. Why? Because the environment that you're around. Okay. We're talking today about the wealthy environment and that you don't make money just because you're charged up. You don't make money because you got vision boards. You don't make money because you got this motivation and you're just trying to stay positive. All those things are good, but that's not why people are wealthy. The reason that people are wealthy is because of several reasons that we just went over and reviewed the tape if you got here late. But the last one that we just talked about is your peer group. All right. Okay. So let's go on to the last thing. And the last thing to keep yourself is external consequences. Okay. This is all in Daniel Priestley's book. I think this is chapter 18 that I just got through reading. Read this whole chapter for yourself. I'm just breaking it down to you in my own words. But Daniel Priestley, his book is called 24 Assets. Step into the real world, you all. There's an amazing amount of wealth that's taking place as we speak this moment. The biggest wealth shift ever in the history of time. And you have the opportunity to be a part of it as the average person. You do not have to come from no money or any of that. You just got to practice these wealth principles that create this money. All right. And we're in a digital age right now. Read this book, 24 Assets, How to Create 24 Digital Assets for Your Business. And we have several of these assets already created with the way that we're running our business. And if you decide you want to come to our Financial IQ Challenge next week, I will be discussing a lot about digital assets, how you create them, how you become perpetual, how you get your messages clear across the world, how you can make, a lot of money. Okay. We've made billions of dollars because we have digital assets. And you can be the same person. You can be just like Brother Ricky, come from nothing, learn how to be able to matriculate your way online, make a whole lot of money. You can do the same. I can show you how to do it because I've done it. We do it every day. Okay. So we'll be doing a lot of that coming up in our Financial IQ Challenge that's coming up next week as we tape here today. And that's at myfinancialiqchallenge.com. myfinancialiqchallenge.com. That's on there, register. VIP is the seat to have. And you come in and we can teach you a whole lot about business, a whole lot about how to move where you are to where it is that you want to be. Okay. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is external consequences. What does that mean? This is a serious trait of the wealthy. This is a really effective characteristic of the wealthy and the wealth environment. And that's to create. See, everybody wants to procrastinate. Wealthy people want to procrastinate. Everybody that doesn't change. What changes is the way to deal with it. Okay. So one way that wealthy people deal with this procrastination thing and this thing that stops the next person from making it is that they create external consequences. Meaning what? Like, for example, they volunteer for accountability. All right. So because when you know somebody is going to inspect what you're doing, people won't necessarily do what's expected, but we will all do what's inspected. The thing about it is that most people, once you come from out of like school and high school and college, you were being inspected then by teachers who was, inspecting you by grading your papers. So because of that, you want to make sure, most of us want to make sure that you got really good grades. So you worked real hard because you don't want to be embarrassed when it came time for the teacher to give you, your report. It was put into your mental psyche when they put those happy faces on your papers when you were little. They used to put those happy faces or that sad face on there if you didn't do well. Well, that has a lot to do with human psychology. So that psychology is like, look, I'd do anything to get away from that embarrassing feeling that I had. That feeling of inadequacy. That's really serious. That's really deep in our in our psyche. But the problem with that is that quite often the things that you were taking in class didn't have anything to do with real life. So the school books are written in the public school system are created by the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve creates school books to keep you purposely studying irrelevant things because the Federal Reserve is a major private company and they have an agenda. An agenda is to dumb you down and to have it where you won't be pursuing wealth because even when you learn all of what you learn, it ain't got nothing to do with wealth. So the wealth principles that the Federal Reserve follows and the wealth principles that people who practice what the wealthy practice are not taught in school, and they're not taught in school on purpose. So in school, they say, listen, get people to be obsessed with the grade that they get. So they'll go to school for 20, 25 years, and they're not really going to school for an education. They're really going to school for the approval, the validation of the teachers. So as long as I got A's and B's and everything, I feel real good about myself. And now I got a degree, which proves that I'm extremely smart, but I don't have any money. They're like, you took 25 years of your life, 30 years of your life, and 35 years of your life just to be right where you started from and you was 18. So what, you got $100,000 bill to pay, a $300,000 bill to pay, and you don't even have the money to pay the bill. Why? Because you don't even make money. Because everything that you was doing was aimed at making sure that your human psyche feels good about the fact that you made it. You got your grades. And the only thing you got now is a degree to prove that you got the validation of broke teachers who taught you how to be broke. Because remember what I told you, your peer group, you're not going to rise above them. So if your teacher is broke that's teaching you, it stands to reason that if you attain every single thing it is they told you, that you're going to be broke too. It's just common sense. If the teacher that's teaching you makes $100,000 a year and you want to make $1 million a year, but you have the wrong teacher. And why in the world would you take 4 years of somebody who makes $100,000 a year teaching you about life? I'm like, it's not working for them. You say, but $100,000 a year is a lot of money, Ricky, to a poor person. Yes, but I'm talking about wealth. If you want to create wealth, then you need to be earning way more than $100,000 a year, which means your teachers that's teaching you need to be earning way more than $100,000 a year if you're going to be a wealthy person. All right, it's just common sense, isn't it? I say, is it just common sense? Put CS in the chat if that's just common sense. All right, isn't that just common sense? But common sense ain't necessarily so common because we get we go to school for 4 years to get a seriously big bill back from some broke teachers who taught us, and they might have been sincere. I'm not saying that they're not sincere. I don't mean that they got it out for you or like they meant you harm, anything like that. I'm not suggesting anything like that. I'm not suggesting that they're not hardworking individuals and that they don't, and that they really, hoping that you'll come out of this thing okay. What I am saying is that they're teaching you out of books that were ordained by the Federal Reserve, which wrote the books on purpose to keep you in the dark. That's what I am saying. I know that for a fact. All right. I'm not guessing about that. And when I see, the average person suffering so much financially, I'm saying, well, you volunteered for the suffering. In fact, you paid for it. You paid somebody. I mean, you accepted those loans from somebody who got you behind the 8 ball, and you can't even pay these little loans back because the stuff you're doing is so irrelevant. That stuff it does not work. You don't have digital assets. And if you don't have digital assets, and if you don't have assets that make money while you sleep, then that means that things that you did in school are irrelevant. And they don't have anything to do with the era that we're living in right now. And God, have mercy. You're going to send your kids and have them go through the same pain? Are you listening to me? It's time for us to snap out of that and to move over into this wealthy environment. And to move over into this wealthy environment, it ain't got nothing to do with you being all geeked up and charged up and writing a bunch of things on a board because that doesn't move the needle. what moves the needle are the things that I've been talking about in this video. By the way, if you're on YouTube here, help the algorithm here by subscribing to our channel. YouTube is a major mammoth money maker. Okay, and part of what we're doing this year in our financial with my company, part of what we're doing is we're going to teach you how to get rich off of YouTube. Part of what we're doing, we're going to show you how to, how you can make. We've made as much as $1 million in one day. We're going to. That's going to be part of what we're doing. We're really revamping the way that we do our business. So we're going to be teaching people a whole lot about this online marketing. We got teams set up and all sort of things that are taking place as I speak right now. So you really don't want to miss next week, because our financial IQ challenge next week will be like never before. This will be our 29th challenge, but it's going to be some major adjustments made this year, because I'm looking at, the average person. I'm like, you just are not making enough money. Okay. And you're not making it. And the way that you're going about trying to make your money is, it's like you cannot move over here into this wealth, into this abundant area doing the things that you're currently doing. You're going to have to change some of these things. You're going to have to learn how to adjust. You're going to have to change your peer group. And for one thing, and then secondly, you're going to have to come in and you have to make some consequences for yourself. In other words, put some pressure on yourself to make some money. All right. Stop being satisfied with the amount of money that you currently have in the way that you've been doing it. Stop being so casual about what's going on with your life and start taking control over your life. By doing what? By saying, okay, let me get some systems in place, because I'm one person and I don't want to approach this thing the way I've been approaching it, the way I got trained in school. School taught me how to be an individual person. Everybody that has that individual attitude, they don't have any money. Why? Because you can't make money by yourself. There are so many things that you need to learn, so many processes that you need to learn, and there's so many people that you need in your life who know what you don't already know. And then you do what? You employ them so they can do it, help you put into place the processes that make you money, instead of you working real hard to make somebody else some money, because working hard don't do nothing but just make you more tired. And then you don't have no energy left for yourself so that you can create your own money. Stop creating money for other people. I command you in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth to not allow 2024 to be another year you making other people rich. Come out of that stuff. That's the old era. All right. Now you're listening to me. Today we're talking about how to move over here into this environment. And the last thing we're going to talk about is consequences. So the first thing to do is to create some consequences is to volunteer for to be accountable. Just volunteer to be accountable. Don't make accountability a begrudging thing. Make it a necessity in your life. Are you hearing me? You got to be talking to somebody on a regular basis, and I would say no less than weekly, and they running it down to you, because you have to step back from yourself and say, listen, how am I doing? Okay, what's going on? Is this really working the way it should be working? All right. Sometimes accountability is because you just have an accountability partner. Most of the time, that doesn't really work long, because people just aren't that interested in you. Most of the time, that's just a fact. Most people, they're interested in themselves. How do you know that? Have you ever been talking to somebody and you tried to start getting an assessment of what was going on with you? And you say, listen, man, I'm having a real hard time over here in this marketing department getting my stuff up off the ground. And before you can even get going, yeah, you know what? I'm having a hard time with that marketing stuff too. Because last week, I had 3 customers, and this week I'm down to 1.5, and then they just cut you off. Have you ever talked to somebody and they start cutting you off in the middle of your conversation and start telling you what's going on with them? That ever happened to you? Put me in the chat. Has that ever happened to you? Anybody ever did you like that? You're talking to the person and you can't even get off your chest what you're trying to talk about, because they're so interested in what's going on with them, until they can't be your accountability partner. Why? Because they want to be the cry on your shoulder partner. They want to cry on your shoulder before you can even get through. Just put me in the chat. That ever happened to you? You're trying to talk to the person so that you can get some feedback from them, so that you can learn how to do what you're doing better, more efficiently, and actually move the needle. But as soon as you start talking, they just dive in and start talking about what's going on with them. Why? Because they're not really interested in what's going on with you. They're interested in what's going on with them. And so most of the time, you try to have some accountability partners most of the time that are not like your paid coaches and teachers. Most of the time, you're going to waste a lot of time. So if you want to move up into this wealth industry and you don't want to have somebody that you paid to be accountable to, chances are you're going to go through the rest of this year in the same shape that you've been in, or worse, because most of the time we just regress. You say, Ricky, that sounds like a really good sales pitch for you to be, for me to come join what it is that you're doing. It's not a sales pitch, believe you me. We're very busy. We're very busy because we have a high demand. We have a high demand because we help people become accountable. We're very busy with the people who want to be accountable. So we're not very busy with people who don't want to be accountable. We spend the lion's share of our day with people who do want to be accountable and was glad to pay for it too. Why? Because they're glad to have somebody paying attention to the way they're doing business. And they realize that there's so many things I don't understand about business and I don't understand about money until I need some eyes on me. I need some, I am voluntarily giving up this money here on the front end so that you can show me how to get a whole bunch of more money on the back end. And because of that, I'm volunteering to do it. And I want to be accountable. I want you to tell me, is this working? Is this not working? All right. In other words, you move over to this wealth side of the money because you want to be corrected. All right. You're like, obviously, I need some correction. If I haven't made at least $1 million in 1 year, then correct my direction towards $1 million. If I haven't made at least $1 million in 1 year, does that make sense? If that makes sense, put RS in the chat. Does that make real sense? All right. Put RS in the chat if that makes sense. I want you to correct. Why? Because obviously what I'm doing is incorrect because it hasn't produced at least $1 million. So if I don't move in this direction of accountability, where I create my own external consequences, that's what accountability does. It makes you create your own external consequences, and you start growing in leaps and bounds while your friends, and your peers and the people who refuse to behave like this, they won't understand what happened to you. They'll look up and they'll say, wow, a month that went by, you sure got a different kind of walk, a different kind of swag, a different kind of confidence. I mean, and you're more competent than you were a month ago. And I'm talking about a whole lot more. And they'll be baffled. They'll be trying to figure out what happened. You say, well, I told you when I was going over here and I was going to sign up so I can I'm paying somebody so that I can be a part of their meeting every week that makes me accountable. I'm doing it on purpose. I went into my pocket and I said, this money that I have is not working in my pocket. The only way it's going to work is I'm going to have to disperse it out of my pocket because I'm headed towards that $1 million status. I want to be able to create $1 million in a year. So for me to be able to create $1 million in a year based on what I've been doing is absolutely impossible. So what I'm going to do, this is the way an honest person will behave. Be like, you know what? So I can see what they do. I see the things they do online. I see the things that they do with money. In this case, in our case, with our business, the things that we do online. How do we make money? And then how do we preserve our money out of trust and all of that? So I'm curious. I want to know what I need to do. So if that's you, and that's the thoughts that's going through your mind right now, just go to myfinancialiqchallenge.com and just sign up. Just sign up, and do it now while you're thinking about it. Before what? That procrastination kicks back in again, and then it's just be another good message that you heard and that didn't really have an effect on you. All right. So give yourself some outside consequences, and that'll make a big difference with your life. Make it self-imposed. All right. And what you'll end up doing is you'll be creating some self-imposed wealth. Now you hear what I'm saying? Because wealth is self-imposed. You create it yourself. Why? Because you like accountability, it creates wealth. That's part of what really moves the needle. Not being all hyped up, not being all charged up, not being like, even though we some pretty enthusiastic people ourselves, but we're not enthusiastic blindly enthusiastic means that you got a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. So we don't just have a blindless, aimless zeal because that doesn't produce money. In order to be wealthy, you have to have some tools. And then you use these tools, and these tools do what? They give you a direct landing page to what it is that you need to do. What's your question there, sir? What are the times I'm from? Out of town. Okay. All right. So the financial IQ challenge, as we speak today, today is the 1st of March. It begins next Monday. I believe that's the 4th. I believe it is 4th of March. And it's from 11 o'clock a.m. every day if you're in the VIP section, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you're in the general section, 12 p.m. to 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. rather. If you're in the general section, it's from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. So it's either 1 hour or 2 hours. depending on how much time you want to spend with us. So the VIP section is good because you can hear all the questions that anybody has to ask if you're in a VIP section. And people ask multi-million-dollar questions. And we answer the questions about business, about how to make money online, about how to buy real estate, about how to operate out of trust, all the things that create wealth and maintain wealth. That's what we do. Okay. So those questions I asked in the 11 o'clock session. Now, if for whatever reason you weren't there physically, but you still want to tune in, it's a replay every day. The replay is for 24 hours only because it's a challenge. It's not a class that you can just go and look in whenever you get ready. Because part of our environment is to get everybody to do things in a timely manner. That's part of the wealth environment, is that wealthy people do things in a timely manner. They don't just take their time doing stuff. Are you hearing what I'm saying? See, wealthy people are particularly are usually never in a hurry because they do everything in advance. Not because we got this procrastination power, this anti-procrastination power, but because we got checks and balances. And we got things that we have to do, tasks that we have to do that are already pre-planned. So it does what? It interrupts the procrastinator, because that procrastinator is the thief and the enemy of wealth, the thief and the enemy of legacies. It's a serious problem. Okay. And it's a problem that most people suffer from because they don't have a systematic way of dealing with it. They taking a knife to a gunfight. They thinking they're going to overcome it through willpower and overcome it through prayer and overcome it through, and I'm not, to get me wrong, I'm a praying man. I believe you ought to pray. But what I'm telling you is that the way you overcome procrastination is your environment. That's where you overcome that, where everybody is doing what you've been wanting to do. So when you get in the environment, you're like, man, these people are moving and they don't look like they don't even seem like it matter to them whether I even join or not. That's when you know you're in a good environment, because the person is not trying to coerce you into it. They just suggesting to you that if you want to be successful, come do the same things that we are already doing. That's the kind of environment that we have. So we welcome you to come to our class and find out what's going on. But it's not to like coerce anybody into doing anything, because we're going to do it anyway. Listen to me good. This is how you can really set yourself free from uh, the time, like wasting time trying to convince another person to do something, because this is very important in the wealth environment. This is how you can set yourself free. Just make sure that you start doing what you need to do. And then what'll happen is that people will just observe. And then the people you love and you're concerned about, they'll just observe your behavior. Then they'll say, what? They'll say, man, this person has really changed their regimens. I mean, they got some type of accountability thing they're doing now. They got some type of, they making more money than they was making before. Man, wow, they went on a vacation, and it wasn't a trip. Like, the difference between a trip and a vacation. A trip is when you leave and you tripping the whole time you're gone because you still worried about your bills and stuff. You can't even enjoy the vacation because you got ulcers and high blood pressure and stuff, piling all up thinking about all those bills and how you got your vacation on credit cards because you couldn't really afford it anyway. But you was like, what the heck? I got to spend at least 2 weeks away from this job before I drop dead, before it kills me. So that's the way a lot of people go on their vacations. But it's not a vacation, it's a trip. But when you are proactive and you do things in advance, when you get ready to go on your vacation, you just can really enjoy yourself. And you can really enjoy your friends and your family and your colleagues and whoever it is that you go with, because your mind is actually there in the sand where your feet are, and the beautiful clear water that you're looking at, and all the things that you have to do to keep your mind right, and to keep your psyche right, and to keep your mental capacity right, and your emotional capacity right. All the things that you have to do to treat yourself good, you can do that a whole lot better when you've done what? When you made enough money to be able to do it. And that's why we teach people how to come out of the lack environment, how to come over into the wealthy environment. It has a whole lot to do with your mental psyche, and has a whole lot to do with your habits. All right. Your mental psyche and your habits, that adds up to whether you have or don't have money, whether you're successful or whether you're not. All right. So give yourself some external consequences by being accountable. And then the second thing is give yourself some external consequences by creating your own deadlines. Okay. One of the best things that have ever happened to me is creating deadlines, because it gives you a focus like none other. When you create deadlines, listen to me, deadlines are your friend. Okay. Give yourself some deadlines and you will be able to accelerate your growth in something that may have taken you 10 years, and you may be able to get that thing done in 10 days. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine getting something done that you've been talking about for 10 years? Can you imagine the feeling that you would get, or the way that that would move the needle if you can get that done in 10 days? Who's interested in that? Put a me in a chat. Who wants to speed up their processes? The things that have taken you 10 years to do that you've just been talking about and you want to actually get it done. Is that you? Put me in a chat if that's you. If you like to speed that up. All right. And then I'm gonna give you this last move. This is move number 4. Okay. This is our last move. So put move, put me, and then put move number 4, move 4, and then I gotta get out of here. All right. So put move 4. All right. This is the last one, and I gotta go. All right. This is the last move I'm gonna teach you. All right. Okay. This is how you go from how you come over into this wealthy environment, because wealth is based on your environment. All right. So here's the last one. Move number 4. I don't see y'all. Come on, move number 4. Come on, I'm gonna give it to you. This is the last one. Okay. It's the last one. Okay. So when I was writing my first book, Control Everything, All Nothing. All right. When I was writing about, when I was first teaching people about trust, I said, man, I really want to go to this meeting in Atlanta with this young man named Neo, because I saw him and his friends, and I saw that they was having this meeting with all these young brothers. And I was like, man, I want to go, see if I can be a blessing to these young brothers, because I'm just really happy about seeing them in business. So I'd like to be, I just like to be a part of it. So I said, so my book, I'm not quite done with my book. So let me just hurry up and finish this book, which I had said I was going to finish it in a month or two. So I started writing just to be ready to go to this meeting, and I finished in 2 weeks. Now, it's a short book. It's a good book. If you haven't read it, just go on YouTube and look at the top of the page, and you can order it there at Rick the Wealth Coach. It's called Control Everything, All Nothing. It's a good book, and I can teach you about the basics about what trust are about, and you'll be done reading it, man, in probably about an hour and a half, because it's a short read. Okay, so and you can, if you're here on Instagram, just go to the bio and you can order it as well. So my point. My point is that when I was writing the book, I had given myself, I said I was going to take so long to do it. But then when I wanted to introduce it to these young men and just give them a copy of it, when I got there, it sped up my mind. So my mind was able to concentrate. So that way, I just wrote the book, and I was done in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks or less, I was done. Totally done with a book. How many of y'all would like to have a book written in 2 weeks? I'm not talking about by AI. I'm talking about you wrote your book. All right. Why? Because you gave yourself a deadline. When you give yourself a deadline, you move from the poverty over into abundance, because it gives you so much utility. You get such a jolt of energy because you're doing something that's so worthwhile. And you're not on the phone scrolling, and you're not talking to people about gossiping. You're not doing the stuff that tears down that breaks down your mental um, nobility, your virtue. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. So it gives you so much virtue when you give yourself deadlines, because now you can really pour yourself into something. And now you can really say, man, I'm having great days, because this is the day that I wasn't interrupted by all the things I volunteer being interrupted by, because I know I got to get this done. So I don't have another choice. I don't have any other. The consequences is that if I don't get this done by now, I ain't gonna be able to live with myself. See, that's how you have to like psych your mind out. Okay. And that's how it's moved. It's not moved because you got a don't procrastinate pill that you took, and you just ate it, and then you woke up and you say, I'll never procrastinate again. No, that's not how the mind works. The way the mind works is that you have to give yourself some deadlines. And when you give yourself a deadline, then the mind kicks in and your subconscious kicks in. And then you're able to do things at a level that you could not have done them at if you didn't have that kind of motivation. You motivate yourself with a deadline. It turns you into a Superman and a Superwoman. Why? Because it's nothing like when your adrenaline is flowing, but you can create that yourself. Are you hearing me? When your adrenaline is flowing, you can do amazing things. Are you listening to what I'm telling you? It's just like this woman who, she was outside, and somebody told her that a car fell on her son, and it fell on his chest. A car, I mean, a big steel, old, rusty car had fallen on her son. And she ran in there, and her adrenaline was flowing, and she pulled. I mean, she literally a woman. All right, she ain't no bodybuilder. She ain't Arnold Schwarzenegger little sister, nothing. I mean, she ain't even got no muscles. She's just a regular woman. But she runs in there, and that adrenaline started flowing, and that woman picked the car up off of her son. Can you imagine something like that? I'm talking about a real story. I ain't talking about no make believe stuff, because her adrenaline was flowing. Imagine you creating deadlines for yourself that create that kind of adrenaline because you have ability inside of you potentially that if you haven't ever worked on deadlines, you've never seen you've never seen how marvelous you can be. I mean, you don't even know who you are. You don't realize what you're capable of. And you can do amazing things when you set deadlines. And that's why it's good to be around people who set deadlines. And that's why it's good to be in an environment of people who set deadlines on a regular basis. And then it'll become what? Your new norm. And then you'll find yourself making a lot of money. Why? Because they're like, look at all this productivity. Man, I'm working on my third book. So my book that I'm writing right now is called, excuse me, it's called the Wealth Formula. That's the book that I'm writing right now. It's called The Wealth Formula. It's not for sale right now because I'm not done. I'll let you know when you get some pre copies and what have you. So it's called The Wealth Formula, and the Wealth Formula is MS plus SS plus TS equals assets. All right, so that's the Wealth Formula. You say, what does that stand for, Ricky? It stands for mindset plus skill set plus tool set equals assets. You say, where did you get that from, Brother Ricky? I got it from my good friend Myron Golden. You say, you're just going to tell us who you got the idea from? Yeah, I didn't create it. He created it. All right. But what? He's part of my wealthy environment that I hang out around. Why? Because he knows a whole lot of stuff that I don't know. I'm sure it might be one or two things I know that he doesn't know, but he knows a whole lot that I don't know. So what do? I said, and check it out. We are co-writing the book. Okay. So it's not just me. We are co-authoring the book. It'll be out this summer. All right. So you say, why are you saying that, Ricky? What I'm telling you is that volunteer to get around people who are sharper than you, and then give yourself some deadlines to get things done that they helped you come up with the idea of. I came up with my own idea by writing this book, but he was the one who came up with the whole idea of what the wealth formula is. And I know it works because it works for me. It works for him. It works for all of us who practice it. I mean, and it works at a very high level too. So if you want to learn, how to behave like this, then put yourself in that type of environment. And then this is what my whole message has been about today. Come out of the environment that you're in and come over into the wealth environment with your flaws, with your fears, with your anxiety, with your lack of abilities. All of that that's not even what's important. What's important is that you bring that over into an environment where all of that can be improved and where you can learn what you don't know and start executing what you were not capable of doing because you did what? You humbled yourself and you exposed yourself to the people who do know, because that's why people are rich. And it's just that simple. You say, Dag, Ricky, it's just that simple. Well, if you haven't been here for the last hour and a half, you're gonna have to go back. And this is a coaching video. All right, it's free, but it's a multi-million-dollar video. This is a coaching video. If you go back, you take your time, you dissect this, and then you start considering these ideas with your company and just with your personal life, then you'll see some amazing changes in your life. And I believe that with all my heart. Okay, let's get up out of here. I love you all. It's been a beautiful day. One announcement is that if you want to come and learn how to make money faster, how to manage that money through trust and tax deferred and not tax deferred, but through trust and tax free instruments, and how to do things that don't create taxable events. If you want to learn that, if you want to learn how to get tax credits, if you want to learn that. And then finally, if you want to learn how to multiply money at a pace that when you actually make this money, you can multiply it. If you want to learn those three things, that's what my financial IQ challenge is about. If you want to learn how to be able to start making money online, I mean, a lot of money potentially for you, if you learn how to practice put these things into practice that we do, then come to myfinancialiqchallenge.com. Myfinancialiqchallenge.com. It's posted on my YouTube channel. It's posted in my bio and Instagram. I would be glad to have you. Starts this Monday coming up. As we speak today. That's this Monday coming up. That's March. What is Monday? The 4th, I believe it is. Starts out this Monday coming up. March. Is that the 4th? I believe it is. So it starts there, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and the VIP section is the best place to be because you come in, you can hear all the questions that people are asking in the VIP section. All right. It's been a plum pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege. I love you all. Ain't nothing you can do about that. Have a beautiful, marvelous, spectacular day. And remember, that stellar is as stellar does. Have an outstanding day. Love you all. Take care.